Hi, Keep Singing members. Today it's May. It's Q&A day, second week of May, second week of the month, Q&A week. Very happy to be with you. I apologize if you were here on time. My dog is at the vet. Um, Sorry, I'm getting the lighting better. Okay, so my dog is at the vet and is having some stomach issues. We'll just leave that there. The vet called just as I was about to hit, start the Zoom meeting. Y'all know how that goes. That is the latest and greatest. In case you're interested, she's probably just ate something that's irritating her stomach, and we're going to try with good old-fashioned doggy style kaopectate. All right, so let us get I didn't have any questions that any of you guys sent today, so as I normally do, I picked one. And based on questions that my students have asked me lately. Y'all send me your questions, QandA at keep-singing.com. So QandA, QandA at keep-singing.com. So send me your questions. Okay, now let us dive in. Today we're going to discuss vocal onsets and vocal offsets. And that might to you sound, well, of course that sounds normal. And it is. It's something that you do every time you start and stop a word or a phrase. I might need to pause and go get some water. We are having, yet again, some new type of allergy this morning. My voice students, both online and offline, were just hacking up phlegm, and me too. Just so much I can feel the postnasal drip as I'm speaking to you, and it just keeps happening and building up. If that's you, look at my two. If that's what you're experiencing too, or have experienced, or you anticipate a seasonal situation where you live that is going to produce similar results for you, not good results, look at my videos in the past on what were they called? Allergies, upper respiratory tract health, and such. So check the replays for that. Oh, I'm getting a thumbs up. I didn't do that, but I'm getting one now because automatic emoji things are on. And if I go like this, let's see if I get fireworks. I don't know if that's gonna, I know that happens in FaceTime. Okay, moving on, I'm going to pause. All right, that was a pause, although for you it was a nanosecond. But I've got a teachino, and off we go. Off to the races. Onsets and offsets, vocal onsets and vocal offsets. First, some definitions. It's not super complicated when you think about what they are. Onset, how you start a tone. Offset, how you end a tone. Now this would be tone. I've said tone is one of those words that's used by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. So let's say, for this, our purposes here today, vocal onset is how you start phonation of a word or sound. On offset is how you end the phonation of a word or sound. But it's a little more than just starting the sound. It's also this is where the word tone, although people by tone, they can mean note that you're singing and holding. They can mean the sound of that note that you're singing and holding. They can mean pitch. which is not an accurate use of the word tone, but a lot of people, I'm just saying how people use it. So, but onset, how you start phonating a word, um, offset, how you stop phonating a word. Okay. So let's and to give you, because we talk about like what's happening physically, when you start phonating, as you will recall, you have your trachea and you have your vocal folds sitting over the top of the trachea. Here, it's your voice box, your larynx, um, in houses your vocal folds. So when you begin to phonate, your vocal folds, your larynx will pull your vocal folds together, and then your breath, your diaphragm and your larynx work in coordination to produce phonation or vocal sound. So that is what it means to phonate, phonate, like talking on the phone. That is how we got the term phone, telephone. Um, so, all right. Let's see, and I do have notes for this all today because I wanted to. There's kind of a lot to say about them, and I don't want to get too off track, which is very easy to do. So, and please forgive the it's not even raspiness, it's just phlegm. It's just constant. It's so annoying. It's super annoying. Okay. So, all right, to start a word and stop a word, let's say that I'm saying the word I, one letter, I, I can say that a bunch of different ways. I, which is starting it with that very hard type of start, that's called a hard glottal onset. I, or I can go, I love you, right? There's a soft, aspirated glottal onset. I. Then there's a little bit of a creak that ended up in there, the edge of your vocal folds, that edge type sound. I love you. I love you. I could have a purely breathy onset. I love you. So let's go through the types of onsets. And there are some basic ones that that are helpful to know. But then there are some ones that, I'm going to give you examples of because it's like, what? All right. So we have glottal onset that's produced, that's the uh, uh. You can find that by saying, uh-oh, uh-oh. And I want to give you an example of this. I don't have examples for everything because I literally just didn't. I could give you all kinds of examples for all kinds of things. But let me show you. Let me make this smaller so I can see this better on my screen. Share screen. Share sound. Optimize. Okay. So not this one. This is not what I wanted to show you. This is a glottal, hard glottal onset. This is Dimash. He's incredible. You're just going to hear a teeny little clip of him, but y'all should totally look him up. He is absolutely phenomenal. He is literally a phenom. His range, he has a 5-octave range, and he can go from almost any style to any style simultaneously, or instantaneously. So listen closely. You're going to hear him going oh oh and that kind of thing. That's a hard glottal onset. Here we go. Get burned, my cloud is ready to go. Oh, oh. There it was. Oh 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 oh. Those are all hard glottal onsets. So now one that I was discussing last night that I don't have video for, but there is a smooth onset which is done. Any of these are done with diaphragmatic support breath support, but this one is a really the smooth glottal onset or soft glottal onset is what I would call a teeny weeny microscopic H to start the word. In the song that my student and I last night were talking about was Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again from the Phantom of the Opera, because she just performed that. And there's that word, the phrase, if I just dreamed, and it starts really high. If I just dreamed that somehow you would be here. So that, but that's hard because it's a vowel onset and it's high. And so you have to choose your onset widely. And we're going to talk about things that impact onset in just a minute. Just want to give you guys the lay of the land. So that if I just dreamed. So that is like there is a microscopic, almost imperceptible H at the beginning of that to give it a smooth entry into the word if. If I just dreamed. All right, so that is now a more exaggerated form of the H or entry into a word is the aspirated or breathed onset. So there's several different types of these. If like you wouldn't do this in classical, but let's just say I was going to do the same line. If I just dreamed, that would be a strongly aspirated onset. If I just dreamed, that was I used straight up an H. You would not do that in classical. You might do it in pop, but you wouldn't really be singing Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again in strictly pop. Not that pop singers haven't sung it, they have, but just saying stylistically, you wouldn't choose that. And we're going to talk again in about importance and the effects of onsets and offsets in just a moment. So, but there are places where you might have an aspirated, other places where you would legitimately have an aspirated onset that sometimes you're starting a word with H. Hi, hello, or you know, whatever. Okay, so that would be clearly starting it with an aspiration. But you might also be doing it in a kind of exaggerated way. Think Michael Jackson, and I'm going to give you an example of him in not too long. Let's see here and look back. Let's do it right now. Let's see. So listen, we're going to hear several different onsets in this. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so this is an isolation of Michael Jackson's vocals for the Don't Stop Till You Get, I'm pretty sure it's Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. I only listened long enough. I skipped all the intro because I just was looking for Michael Jackson isolated vocals, and I thought I can find my own examples. I'm not here for the video, so to speak. But this guy just adores, I don't know how you say his last name, Chris Leapy maybe? But he loves Michael Jackson. He has a lot of isolated vocals of Michael Jackson, and you could actually learn a lot by watching some of those and listening listening to Michael Jackson. He was a hard worker. He was vocally talented, but he worked hard from a very young age. It's all part of his whole story, which is very weird. It has a lot of loops and not necessarily how a lot of us would want to be raised by his father. But anyhow, he developed an incredible work ethic. All right, so Michael Jackson's life story and lifestyle choices aside, listen closely here. We're going to hear several examples of onsets and offsets, which we will address in a moment.
I gave my money, I gave my time. I gave her everything inside of one heart could find. I gave my passion, my very soul. I gave her promises and secrets so untold. You already
Okay. All right. All right, Chris. So, you heard a lot of the pinch, but I'm not talking about the vocal effects that he does. I'm talking about how he starts and stops words. And he does some soft, some hard, but a lot of it is very pinched. And that's where uh, you're increasing the intensity of the sound, and he's really pinching his vocal folds together, his vocal cords, and there's a lot of aspiration at not as much at the beginning of words, but he does several aspirated offsets. I'm gonna play this for you again. I want you to uh, listen one more time. So he doesn't have any just kind of like normal balanced approaches. Not that I can recall. I'm so busy listening for the aspirated and the pinch, but he definitely uses a lingual. There's a lot of stuff going on with his tongue in terms of making the pinch sound and the pinch style of his a lot of tension in his voice because the song calls for it. I gave her money, I gave her time. None of it worked, right? That's basically what he's saying. All right, so let's listen one more time.
Absolutely hear it and throughout this vocal performance. Here we go.
I gave my money.
Okay, did you hear the money? Okay,
I gave my time.
again, I gave it time.
I gave her everything.
That let's talk about that now. He goes, that is the creaky door edge. I'm gonna have another example because Britney Spears is just like, woo, she does that all of the time. We'll hear that in a minute. But that was a little teeny example of it, just kind of salt and peppered in there. One thing that Michael Jackson was so amazing at was peppering and salt, like seasoning his stuff with different things throughout. And most of the time, every bit of it was planned, although he did a lot of improvisation. There's a lot of videos about that too. But I mean, because he would get all into the song, which and he knew his instrument because he worked his instrument pretty much every day, um, a lot. So let's hear that one more time, just real quick.
Absolutely hear it and throughout this vocal performance. Here we go.
I gave my
That's
money.
that's
I gave my time. I gave her everything inside of one heart could find. I gave.
okay. Now you notice also he's doing a there's a like a gasp. That's another type of aspirated or breathed onset, but what he does is he gasps in and then he starts it with what's called a lingual onset, which is with the tongue. It's hard for me to do. It takes a lot of just like getting into it. I gave a, and so listen again to that real quick to hear how he does the gasp and then uses his tongue to kind of close off the sound. So lingual onset. Here we go.
I gave my passion, my very soul.
Okay. So that my baby, that's normal, just an but it was still a very exaggerated my baby. So all right. So lots of interesting things going on there, but I don't want to just this is an analysis of Michael Jackson. It's an analysis of vocal onsets and offsets. So uh, now we've talked about that is a labial onset. Labia are lips. Labial means with the lips. I gave a money. Right. So that would be an exaggerated labial. A normal one would just be blue moon, right? Again, labial. B is labial. Um, F is labial but aspirated, because you're doing the same type of motion. So, all right. So these are all just kind of giving you an introduction to what this is. Like, how do you start and how do you stop a word? Okay, so we've got glottal onset, we've got hard glottal, smooth glottal onset. Smooth, you might hear it termed balanced onset. That just kind of just moving into the word. Uh, Excuse me, you don't hear any effects placed on the word. It's just sounds like you're just singing the word. Aspirated is the breath, whether it's a strong um, or a Michael Jackson did that gasp and then went into the lingual, uh, or you might just have a soft H, but not as soft as that microscopic one I was talking about earlier. That again, that's aspirated. Anything where the breath is flowing to start the tone or to start the phonation, be careful with my words, to start the phonation, that is aspirated. And then labial with the lips, lingual with the tongue, or whatever, na na na, da da da. Those are all lingual with the tongue. And then the creaky door or the edge. Let's hear another example of that from Britney Spears. And I do like Britney Spears has gotten a lot of flack, maybe not without uh, good reason, but if you listen to videos of her singing in her early life, y'all, she had vocal chops and she worked very hard at her voice. So, but vocal serious chops when she was 10, 12. So, anyways, okay, so let's hear from her singing I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. Okay, right there we have uh, there was a combination of the glottal with a lot of extra breath, and she's using a breathy tone throughout this whole section of this song. So she in consonance with that whole style that she's approaching this whole section of the song with, she starts a glottal onset with extra breath. So there's a combination of glottal and aspirated. Then note, listen closely. She goes, I used to think. So, and there is an aspirated offset. So listen real quickly. See if I can find it. Okay, did you hear that? I used to think. She never even actually says the K. I used to think. Nope, it's I used to think. No, I didn't even do it that way. I used to think. Okay, there's another. Okay, again, she starts out the I had the answers with the edge or creaky door onset. I have the answers to everything. And again, uses an aspirated offset, creaky door onset. In between, she pretty much flows word to word. It's extreme, it's almost like an extreme form of legato. She kind of blends the words together, not even as many glottal onsets as I gave that to give the words more definition. Let's hear a little bit more and then we'll move on. Clearly, that was creaky door. Oh, yeah, right? Okay, interestingly, Britney Spears finds ways to introduce the creaky door to even consonants that wouldn't use it. It's kind of like Michael Jackson doing the gasp before starting the word. It's just one of these things that when you sing a lot and you know your instrument, you kind of do things in a way that makes sense to you inside. Internally, you are emoting the song, you are emoting the piece. And that impacts your onsets and your offsets. But you should always be thoughtful about how you do it. Now, beginners should always be thoughtful, always, always, always. But even pros are, I doubt that there's even a smidgen of this song that she didn't go over with her vocal coach and decide how she was going to do her onsets and her offsets, because that's what pros do. Um, so, all right, that's enough of Brittany for the moment. And I don't even think we're going to get to the Whitney. So, but you can examine any of your favorite artists, go through and listen to how they start and stop their phonation. How do they start and stop a word? How do they connect the word to the words immediately preceding it, or the words immediately following it? The word immediately following it. There's not multiple words after it. It's only one, because it's very linear. But analyze what they're doing. Not saying necessarily, like initially, sure. I hope I don't think I shared my screen. So I'm not sure if you got to hear that. Let me share that one more time. I want you to be able to hear it.
I used to think
And that was the uh, I uh, I used to think. Okay.
I had the answers to everything.
So I hope that you were able to hear her singing when I was giving all those examples as I sang them. If not, I apologize, but that's what we were listening to. Let me.
Oh, yeah. But now I know
A lot of breath.
that life doesn't always go my way.
All right. So a lot of use of the edge, the gravelly sound, and like I said, she finds ways. I guess it's the style she has adopted as kind of her unique sound from the beginning. Baby, baby. What was it? Baby, baby, how was I supposed to know? Right, very pinched. A lot of use of edge, a lot of throwing in labial or lingual consonants that aren't actually there. So, but it was a style, and clearly people loved it and still love it. And as I said at the beginning, she's got some serious vocal chops. All right. So we've got our basic types there, and I might be missing one or two. I was kind of going from memory. Uh, let's see. Let's talk about the importance of figuring out your onsets and your offsets. When you plan out a song and you are deciding how you're going to sing it, you need to consider your onsets and your offsets. You need to figure out how you're going to connect the words. Here are some of the things that are going to impact that. The phrasing, um, when you're looking, if you have music that has phrase marks called slurs, so you're going to think, how does that thought get connected? How am I going to connect that thought with my words? How am I going to keep those words flowing? It doesn't matter your genre. You'll need to think about how you're going to keep that thought together, um, that's appropriate to the genre, whether it's country or metal or classical or pop. So you have to think about that. How you start a word is impacted by how you ended the word before it, or if you ended. You need to think about how it sounds to the listener. How do they connect? And do you need to chop off some consonants in order to make it sound normal and right and not like rigid and weird. Um, uh, if I sing this phrase, then sometimes it might sound weird if I overly pronounce each one. Now, clearly that was just one kind of phrase, but if I was going to sing that in a way that I was doing hard onsets, offsets, I was doing different things to create a start and an end to each word. But if I was going to sing that, I would change the way they connect. If I am going to sing this phrase, sing this becomes one word. Sing this phrase. There is a little bit of a teeny break in between, but there's no phonation break. Um, then I might not start and stop each word so hard and fast for each one. So you can still understand what I'm saying, and it makes more sense if I'm not chopping up the words. All right, so you're going to think about what makes the most sense with the phrasing. How you end a word impacts the following word, as we've just demonstrated. Um, the power, the brightness, the intensity is impacted by how you start and stop a word. Like just think about both Britney Spears and Michael Jackson's examples of the strong use of aspiration, the use of edge, the use of aspirated offset. Um, all those things can impact the energy of a piece. And that is going to be, that's going to impact the overall sound. Um, the way, the intensity you create with your onsets and offsets can create a more powerful phrase. All right, context. You want to consider the flow of the song or the flow of the phrase, as we've just discussed. You want to consider the mood of the song. What's the whole thing going on in this song? Brittany's song, uh, I used to think, it's pensive, it's reflective, um, and but very emotional. I'm not a girl anymore, but I'm not yet a woman. I used to think that things were going to be easy. Now I know that they're definitely not, and things like that. So you want to ask yourself, what's the mood of it? And in contrast to that is Michael Jackson's the I gave her money, I gave her time. Like very impassioned, very pinched, very tense. Um, and the onsets and offsets reflect that. Britney's is a much more relaxed approach. It's more pensive and reflective. It's almost like we're seeing it in pastels and and a fuzzy filter on the camera. All right. So the mood of the song. You also don't necessarily want the start and the stop of a word to stick out unless you do. Unless you do want it to stick out. In that case, you want it to stick out and you're purposeful about that. But most of the time, you're just singing a phrase and you are singing, you're connecting thoughts. Um, but say, for example, on Michael Jackson and Britney Spears' styles, they have styles that it's like their branding. That's how they do it, and that's how they're gonna do it. They could do different things, but stylistically, that's their choice. Or if there's a word that they really want to stand out, like Dimash, that oh, like look out, don't get too close, because you might get burned. The song was called Smoke. So that's what that's all about. So there's smoke coming up from all the women he's burned in the past, I guess. So those kinds of things, if you want them to stick out, you want them to stick out, and you can use your onsets and offsets to make that happen. Another thing to consider in your onsets and offsets is breath efficiency, not just breath support, but breath efficiency. So if you're trying to get through a long phrase like I'm doing right now, then I'm going to think about how I'm connecting my words. Because if I'm trying to get to the end of a long phrase while not disconnecting the words, I'm going to be more efficient with my onsets and offsets, keeping them very connected while still making the words understandable. All of that was one breath. All of that was one breath. You can go back and you can listen to how I connected the words, and really didn't have too many onsets and offsets, so to speak, that were separate from other words. I kept the onsets and offsets very connected. Okay, efficiency. And then variety. We talked a little bit ago about varying up your sound and the style of the song. Michael Jackson was masterful at that. He would do different things. Like in the little time that we listened, he did 5 or 6 different examples of things, and just not getting in a rut and not being super predictable. Britney Spears was for quite some time kind of made fun of because everything started with the creaky voice. And there's still a lot of that, but she doesn't do it as much anymore. But that was her stylistic choice, and it did sell her a lot of albums. Okay, now, so your choice of onset is affected by the genre of the song, the meaning of the phrase, the setting or meaning of the song, the word in sung context of the phrase, like how the letters flow or sounds or don't flow, and also your vocal capabilities and skill. Don't try to just start doing creaky edge like all of a sudden all the time. You want to work on your diaphragmatic strength because all these depend upon coordination between your diaphragm and your larynx. And you want to make sure that you are building that and you're building your rib cage muscle strength so that you have a very good foundation of vocal support, of breath support to your vocals. So, all right, I hope that that's helpful. Please don't hesitate to send me questions. I'm very, very happy when I get them from you. Also, I want to remind you, go do your weekly check-ins. You get the reminders on Friday, but you can do them anytime. Do a journal entry this week. Go to the welcome page and click on where you complete the questionnaire. That's going to take you to the page where you have the questionnaire and also where you submit, describes how to submit your videos. That can be your benchmark videos when you're starting. When you decide you're going to really jump on board with this, you need to go to that page and make yourself a couple of videos. I ask for 2. You can make more if you want them, and of you singing, and that way you can see your progress. You can check it out. You don't look at them every day. You do, it's kind of like putting your money in stocks and bonds. You don't look every day at this. You look at it every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and those are your benchmarks, so you can read your progress and really see how it's going. And also, it also shows you, because the videos don't lie, it shows you where you need to work and strengthen. So, but it also shows you, because we tend to be very hard on ourselves and think we're worse than we are. It shows you and tells you where your things are going well, where your trajectory is upward. But that's why you don't obsess over it. You just do that and record a new benchmark video every 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months, so that you can keep tracking your progress forward. So, okay, have a wonderful week. Send me questions, send me questions, send me questions. Next week is core training. All right, bye.